Hey guys, Hannah here with the Film Magic. I'm back with another video for you guys today, but before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more movie content. Today I'll be ranking Quentin Tarantino's films from worst to best. I'm so excited about this because Tarantino is one of my favorite directors of all time. Now, before we get started, I should probably note that Quentin Tarantino doesn't really have a bad film, but as with all great things in life, there is a hierarchy to these things. Now at number 10, we have my least favorite Quentin Tarantino film, which is Death Proof. Now, like I said, it's not necessarily a bad film, but it's definitely not the best out of Quentin Tarantino's lineup. The best parts of this movie come at the last 30 minutes, and before we get to that, we have to sit through a lot of kind of really gratuitous violence against women. I will say that I think the most redeeming parts of this film are the lead women, Zoe Bell and Rosario Dawson. Up until we get to their scenes, the film kind of drags a bit. There's a lot of places where there's a ton of action and everything's going 100 miles an hour, and then we have the scenes sitting in a bar that they seem to talk on and on and on for what feels like 20 minutes at a time, and because of the stark difference in pacing, it feels a little awkward when we have those switches. Coming in at number 9, we have Kill Bill Volume 2. This film just feels really overstuffed to me. I think the best parts are actually when the martial arts master tutors Uma Thurman's bride, and to be honest, this final film in the saga, well, supposedly the final film, feels like kind of a letdown after this huge epic saga build-up that we have in Volume 1, especially when we have that really anticlimactic final showdown with Bill. You know, it's been building up to be this huge thing, and the end result is honestly kind of pretty disappointing. Coming in at number 8, we have Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown. Now, this is actually a really great film, but the reason it's so low on this list is that it doesn't really stand out to me among his other works. Now, this film has all the elements of a great Quentin Tarantino film, but it's just on a lower, less intense scale. You know, it's almost like he's holding back in this film a little bit, and aside from that, this film also doesn't really have the same suave, distinct style as some of his other films do. Now at number 7, we have The Hateful Eight. Now, honestly, I think that this film was pretty good for the most part. I honestly think I like it more than most people do, but this was mainly because I thought it was pretty clever, honestly, and it also has really good cinematography. It was actually nominated for an Academy Award for its cinematography. This film actually marks Quentin Tarantino's return to the epic Western. He originally intended for this film to serve as a sequel to Django Unchained, but as he was writing the script, he realized that Django didn't really fit in with these characters. This film has a really vivid spotlight on the ugliness of human nature, and I think it's really relevant to some of the ugliness we see today. I will say that this film probably gets a lot of hate because, as the title alludes to, there's not a single character in this film that is enjoyable to watch or a character that has any redeeming qualities, and that makes it kind of hard to get really any satisfaction out of the film as a viewer. I think what this film is missing is the heart and the humor that typically alleviates so many of Quentin Tarantino's really violent, gory, heavy films. Now at number 6, we have Tarantino's most recent film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really liked the character development, especially the character relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Brad Pitt's character. You know, we all know that Quentin Tarantino really has a way with dialogue, and we really can see that in this film. The reason I ranked this film as low as I did is because, to me, it doesn't really feel like a Quentin Tarantino film. You know, it's beautiful, it's this wonderful homage to old Hollywood, and you know, there's phenomenal characters in it, phenomenal performances from Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, but honestly, because all of the action and the standard Quentin Tarantino violence that we have comes at the very end, it does kind of seem to drag throughout the film. Now at number 5, we have Kill Bill Volume 1. I really love this film because I feel like this is where we really get to see where Quentin Tarantino got his roots from, where he learned how to direct and write. He's actually a self-taught director. He taught himself how to direct he used to work in this video store, and he used to watch all these really old Hong Kong crime movies and these exploitation films, and we can really see that influence in Kill Bill Volume 1. Now for number 4, we have Django Unchained. This is one of my all-time favorite Quentin Tarantino films. You know, there's so much I love about this movie. There's phenomenal performances from Christoph Waltz and Jamie Foxx. You know, I think Waltz's character really adds this needed humor and levity to the film, and he's also kind of a plot driver. He's the one who kind of steers the ship and says, okay, this is where we're going now and this is why. This film is also extremely visually stunning to watch. There's these sweeping wide shots of the southern landscape that really makes you feel as if you're in that world. Tarantino really delivers some biting satire in this film, and I think that just makes the world of difference. You know, one of the most inspired genius scenes in this film, I think, is this scene where the KKK rides up, and there's this moment where they're all complaining about the fact that they can't see out of the eye holes on the hoods that they're wearing. And it's hilarious, but, you know, it's also, you know, a parody. It's an attack. You know, Quentin Tarantino isn't afraid to attack all levels of an issue. And here he's tackling slavery in the South, which is a really heavy issue. And he isn't afraid to attack all aspects of it. You know, the character that Samuel L. Jackson plays, he plays the butler to Leonardo DiCaprio's plantation owner, Candy. And, you know, we've seen a bunch of white racism in the film up until now, but now we see this kind of Uncle Tom figure who, you know, betrays the other slaves for favor of getting in with the white man. This really bold and unapologetic look at the issues at hand is one of the reasons I love this movie so much. Coming in at number 3, we have Reservoir Dogs. Now, I have to say that this very well might be the most impressive debut of any director in recent history. You know, I think it's kind of unheard of, or it was unheard of at the time, for a film by a new director to be so well received. This is even more impressive when you consider the fact that this was shot and made on an extremely low budget. Not only was this film extremely well received, but it was also a very bold statement on Tarantino's part. He came out and he said, you know what, I'm not just gonna be a director, I'm gonna be an auteur. And he really establishes that position with this film. One thing that I really love about this film is how much heart it has and how high the emotional stakes are. You know, not only that, you get emotionally invested, but along the way there's so many twists and turns that the suspense is paced so well that it really keeps you engaged throughout. Coming in at number 2, we have Inglourious Basterds. There's this line, I think it's the last line in the film, that Brad Pitt's character goes, "This might just be my greatest masterpiece yet." And I love that line because it's almost like we have Tarantino speak into the audience through Pitt. You know, he's saying to us, you know, this might be my greatest masterpiece yet, and I think he was pretty spot on with that remark. I'd have to say that I think every performance in this film is pretty much perfect, especially, you know, our leading men and women. We have Brad Pitt as the hero, Melanie Laurent as the girl, and Christoph Waltz as the Nazi. You know, one of the best scenes in this whole film is the opening scene where we see Christoph Waltz come in as the Nazi, and he's playing this kind of like cat and mouse game with this dairy farmer. And you know, this scene alone I think shows to us why Christoph Waltz won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Now, surprisingly, even though it's a war movie, this is actually one of Quentin Tarantino's less violent films, but I will say that the violence that is there feels more real and authentic. You know, another thing that we really see in this film is Quentin Tarantino is a master of dialogue. He just has this really amazing way of being able to shift the control in the story based on the dialogue. You know, while there is a lot of dialogue in this scene, you know, Quentin Tarantino sure does love to hear his actors speak. It never drags because it's so tight and it's so focused. And I think that that is really what's driving this narrative along. You know, overall, this is just really a beautiful film to watch. We have these sweeping landscape shots that Tarantino is kind of known for. We see these in Django Unchained too, of the French countryside, and it just really feels real and it feels vivid and it really puts you in the world of the story. And finally, we made it to number 1. And of course, I'm sure y'all all saw this coming, we have Pulp Fiction at the top spot. Pulp Fiction is hands down, without a doubt, Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece. You know, it's the Sistine Chapel of his career. I honestly don't think he'll ever be able to make a film better than Pulp Fiction, and if he does, I cannot wait to see that because that will be a complete masterpiece. Pulp Fiction has everything that you could ever ask for in a Quentin Tarantino film. You know, it's hilarious, it's suspenseful, it's shocking, it's exciting to watch, it's violent, it's amazingly original as a work of art. Not to mention that Pulp Fiction is probably one of the most quotable movies of all time, and for that and for all the reasons I mentioned before, I think Pulp Fiction more than deserves the number 1 spot on this list. Looking at this list, I think it's very easy to see why Tarantino is considered one of the greatest directors of this generation and maybe even of all time. That's it from me today, guys. I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments below about the order of these films, and I'll see y'all next time.